What's up, fellas? Welcome back to Convos over Cold Brew with me, your host, Emma Abrahamson. Today we're talking to Sam Parsons, one of the founders of Tinman Elite. Sam and I go way back to high school where I met him for the first time at NXN in 2011, I believe. Sam ran at NC State. Now he is a pro runner for Adidas and obviously Tinman Elite. He is the creative director behind Tinman Elite. And in today's episode, we talk about running, the creation of a brand from basically the ground up, and Sam's goals for Tinman Elite down the road, and much more. So let's just get into today's episode. Okay, Sam, I am excited to have you on the podcast. To get started, you want to just give us a little intro of who you are and what you're about?
What I'm about. My name is Sam Parsons. I'm a pro runner. I'm a creative. I'm an adventurer at heart. Yeah, that's good enough for me.
That's a good little intro. You and I go way back. We go way back. We go back to 2011, I think is when we met.
It's
very
briefly.
Crazy
how far we've come now,
I know.
Doing this podcast, all those years up until this moment, we made it.
I know it all led up to this. Actually, it's actually crazy how many friends I still have from like meeting people back in 2011 in the running world, like across the country. It's kind of wild how the running world is too small, I think, but it is cool to see like what everyone's done over the years.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people like just scattered about from those like formative years that me and you went through, like through being like going to summer camps, to NXN and those sort of formative things, and like how those people have all kind of branched out and gone their different ways, whether it's with like brands or with photos or on YouTube or doing their own running or, like whatever it may be. So I still have that same network too. So it is cool.
Well, honestly, I needed to start off the podcast because we need to settle some beef from 2011. This has been the back of my mind forever. So I needed to get you on so we can, have a face-to-face conversation about it. So I remember listening to a podcast. This was, I think, back in 2019. I don't remember whose podcast it was, but you were talking about NXN and how that was like your first experience with runner girls or something. I guess like kind of talk about that element of NXN for you.
I guess just being like overwhelmed by all the blonde California girls, just, I think that it was one of those things where like NXN is something that is like the one shining moment of your running career at that time. It was like at the time I was so tunnel vision, like the one thing I do in my running career, if I can make NXN, it'll all be worth it. If I can get that bag, those shoes, it'll all be worth it. And then, all of a sudden you go to college and then professionally and all those things like, fade into like what you thought was the peak, but that's just like one of those things where like, I guess my introduction to runner girls was just that, that like I was just a very, very small fish in a really big pond all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, all of these girls were like very confident and they were all very, willing to go up to guys and talk to them without, any hesitation and stuff. So I guess, and that was like the California La Costa Canyon girls, I guess, was like all of us East Coast boys were all just like, oh my gosh, like we got to meet some of these girls before the dance actually kicks off. So
it was so funny. I remember I like have just a distinct memory in my head of when our teammate Shanoa, who's been on this podcast, actually.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
She literally came up to you and Aubrey, and I was like at dinner or something. And she went up to you guys and like talked to you guys or something. But then I remember she told you that none of us had ever kissed a guy.
Yeah.
So she like completely outed us, made us look like idiots and like little tiny children.
She brought you guys back down to earth for us. And I guess that's what us also skinny little runner boys needed at the time to have enough confidence to go up and ask for a dance.
Yeah, but we were on one. We loved NXN because we were a team of 7 blonde girls, so it was fun to
Yeah,
go
I'll
around and
never
mess
forget
around.
the iconic pink shirts.
Yeah, that's like
Nike
so
Pro half price.
extra.
You guys are OG. Like these girls don't know what's up nowadays. Like you guys are OG in this game. Like girls are still following that same blueprint like that you guys set to this day. Or at
What
least I'm
can I
gonna say
say?
you guys set.
What can I say? Okay, but the
Shanoa,
beat,
that's so funny. I forgot what her name was. That is
yeah.
so golden.
Oh, Shanoa, she outed us, made us look not the best, but okay. The beef though I have with you is I have some receipts, and you're gonna be mortified. You're gonna think I'm creepy and weird. So I have receipts from 2011. I have all my pictures on my phone, like my screenshots from like when I first got my first iPhone.
Wow.
And of course, like being, a team of girls, like you send screenshots back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
And I have screenshots
Oh
from
gosh.
your Twitter from December 2nd, 2011. At 10:13 a.m., you tweeted hashtag Team Saugus Girls. So
Oh.
you know what, Sam? Like, okay, first of all, right off the bat, like, wow, I'm offended. Saugus was literally our rivals, like the other California team that made it. But then not only like,
That
okay,
is so funny.
you could have said that, you could have stopped at the Team Saugus girls, but
Yeah.
then on December 2nd, that same day, at 7:12 p.m., you tweeted Lacosta girls, hashtag not the look.
Oh my
So
god.
I need like, what does that mean, Sam?
There must have been a girl on Saugus that just caught my eye. I guess that's what prompted that, and I guess I was just doing some serious subtweeting at the time. My girlfriend's gonna hate this podcast.
Well, because there was another
And then the Lacosta thing, it must have come up just after like the confrontation at Chinoa. Like I've never had a girl be so upfront with me ever, and like I guess I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is crazy. Like I'm not ready for this even in the slightest bit, like, I was very like, I mean, I barely did anything in high school either, so like I was in the same boat. So
yeah.
I guess I was like probably just very intimidated by that and was trying to get some brownie points with the Saugus girls. I don't even remember like I don't even remember Saugus was like a team now. Like
well, then you also
like,
tweeted. You
crossed
tweeted
my
later,
heart.
like December 4th. You
There's
tweeted.
more. Gosh.
I have one more. It's all from the same weekend.
Gosh,
I
that was
seem
the
so
worst.
creepy. I don't know why I still have these on my phone, but it's just so funny now that I get to bring them up. You tweeted, "Damn, it sucks not being able to say bye to her." Hashtag regrets. So maybe you did have.
This was NXN weekend.
This was NXN weekend.
Wow.
So you couldn't say goodbye to whoever you. Some Saugus girl probably.
Jeez.
Wow.
I really wish I had like a really good background story for you where I like snuck out and had some romantic evening.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to hear like the juicy tea.
I was super, super lame. I probably definitely only went to Arcadia later that year just because of like a potential follow through or something there. But I ended up just like being in a hot tub with Craig and Ingalls and Sam Robertson, who ended up being like my college teammates at the time later, and also got really in trouble for that because we like tried to steal like a Red Lobster California flag as if that was like some cool memorabilia. So nothing has changed, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
Still do the same stupid shit, but
sounds like high school running. It's about the most exciting things that happen. So
yeah.
Anyways, okay, that was my beef. We settled it, whatever. I'm just gonna write it off as we were like really intimidating and cool.
Yeah,
and
I'll tweet Lacosta Canyon the look hashtag team Shanoa right after this.
Team Shanoa. Okay, well, that's all the beef I have for you. But so I want to get to know you a little better, get to know your background. How did you get into running? Did you like grow up in Delaware running there?
Yeah, it was just like through my sister, really. Like she was the runner in the family and I played soccer like most kids, and I like watched her, crush. Like she went to NXN 4 years, with her high school team that I eventually went to that same high school, and the girls team was like the dominant force there. And like I just watched her crush and I was like, oh, I think that's really cool and I would love to do that too. So I just basically tried to follow in her footsteps. And then, like as the sport does to a lot of people, it kind of just reels you in and keeps you there as long as possible. And here we are today.
Yeah. When did you get good? Obviously qualifying to NXN, like you have to be pretty good.
Well, so. I was like 5 foot nothing, like throughout a lot, like far too long in high school, especially for guys.
Far too long.
Because there's kind of this like threshold where it's like if you're short in middle school, it's kind of like endearing, but then all of a sudden like high school hits and you're still 5 foot nothing, and then it really sucks. And that's what it was for me until basically like I had a huge growth spurt going into my junior year where I went from like I couldn't be taller than 5'4", and then 5'4" to like 5'10". Like it was huge, like it was a crazy growth
Jeez.
spurt. And then I ended up growing like three more inches after that, going into college. So that was a huge thing for me. Like once I settled back into my body and once my shins stopped hurting,
Yeah, I was
from
gonna
that
say, did
growth
you get
spurt,
injured at all during that time?
I actually didn't get injured that bad. It just like everything just like ached really bad, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What's happening to me?" It's just like puberty was like finally starting for me. Like,
Yeah, I grew 8 inches in high school, so I get it.
yeah, like so that was like pretty shell shocking to all of a sudden do that, but it also really helped with running. So
Yeah.
not gonna complain about it too much.
Yeah. And yeah, I just remember your high school always being really good. So I guess you probably had good training, I'm assuming.
Yeah, for sure. Like our coach, like I wouldn't even say it was like great training or anything. Our coach was just like, and he really is like so formative in my life. And it's really cool that I do get to go back this weekend and like run in his honor and be back at my high school track. Like a lot of times in this sport, we like run just to like go to a race to qualify for this race. And then once you get to this race, then you get to go to this race. And there's not a lot of purpose behind it.
Yeah.
Something that I definitely struggle with in this sport is because I typically really need something to drive me, like a strong purpose to really run my best. And yeah, I've a lot to run for this weekend, back at like the old stomping grounds, and to get to be in front of so many people that were there for me in those formative years. But
Yeah.
my high school coach was like he's like he would have like weekly meetings that were like worthy of being in like a sports documentary like speech type thing. You know what I mean? Like he was just the ultimate motivator, and he just made you like believe so much. Like I remember he would pull me, like this is literally something out of a sports film, but it's like a real story. Like my freshman year, like when I was just starting running, he pulled me into his office and he asked me how good do you want to be? Um, and every single year he would ask me the same question at the start of the year, like how good do you want to be? And it wasn't until like my senior year I like went into his office and I'm like, I'm ready. Like I'm ready this year. Like every year I'd walk in there being like, oh, I just want to, be the top freshman on the team. You know what I mean? Like whatever.
Yeah.
And then my senior year I was like, coach, I want to be great. Like I want to be the best. Like I want to be the best runner to ever come through here. I want to be the best runner that you've ever coached. Like I just laid it all out. And he just said, he was like, I've been waiting for you to say that for 3 years.
Oh
And
my
like,
gosh.
and that's like the type of person he was, that he just instilled such confidence, and he was such a dreamer in heart, and made me a dreamer also. So I'm like a big time rah guy. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So did your training like change after that when you were like, I want to be the best? Or was it just kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I remember like one workout I always look back on that I'm like so fond of was my like sophomore year when I was still like this 5 foot nothing kid. There was this girl on the team, Juliet Bottorff, who ran for Duke, and she went on to actually win NCAA's in the 10K. Like that, it's just like one of these forgotten about races that people kind of forget. But she won NCAA's, and I remember doing a workout with her that was like 20 by 400, and it was just like around like a football field, and I like remember just like grinding through it to stay with Juliet. Yeah, but I like compared to what high school kids are doing nowadays, like it's like laughable. Like my longest runs were like 75, 80 minutes, like max in the summer. Barely anything. I remember actually the one thing we did start doing once I said that, and he was like, I remember, this is another little side story. He like called me into his office and was like, Sam, like I think we should start doing doubles. Like I think we should start running in the morning before school starts, so then you can get more miles in. And we like met like I think it was twice a week, and high school starts so early.
Yeah.
High school really is the hardest time of your life. Like college was such a breeze. Like pro running now is so just easy in terms of like the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like high school is so hard, man.
It's so
Like,
hard on your body, just like walking around all day, being in school for so long, and then going to practice, and then running
oh,
before.
and the stress of like your future and like,
Yeah,
oh, just teachers were so tough on me. Like I was never good at school, and I struggled so much. Like, so I'm so grateful that I don't have to like take tests anymore or anything. Like I always was like okay at school, but I never was like getting A's ever. You know, it was like if I got B's on tests, I'm freaking walking tall for the rest of the day. You know, but those doubles were, I guess, probably the biggest thing that changed. And that was
yeah,
also, it's not like we got that much better from running like 3 miles before school
yeah,
started, like a few times a week. It's like it was like 6 more miles a week, basically, you know? It was
yeah.
purely just a mental thing that like, hey, we're working harder than anyone else. And once again, our coach has instilled that confidence in us that we're working harder than anyone else because we're waking up for these morning runs like twice a week. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I feel like mental is just a huge part of it. To have that in high school too is great. To have a coach that like really instills that belief in you, because I feel like that's kind of rare. A lot of high school coaches don't really care because
Yeah.
they're just there, making their $5,000
Yeah.
a year extra on top of their,
Totally.
teaching career or whatever. So that
Yeah.
is cool that you had that available as well.
Yeah. What was it like for you?
I really loved my high school coach. I mean, he was there all 4 years. I was there doing cross country and track. We just had a really talented team, honestly. I think he was kind of like thrown a bunch of really like talented people. And I loved, having people to run with all the time and having teammates. I feel like it really helped set up my future and like made me have a good head on my shoulders when I was going to something like, I mean, when I was going to Oregon and everyone was better than me, I was like, okay, I'm already kind of
Yeah.
used to running with people or running with people that are better than me. But yeah, my coach in particular, like, I wouldn't say the training was anything insane. It was kind of the same thing. I think people would laugh if they saw now compared to high schoolers these days.
Yeah.
Because I think we're all in the same part of like that generation. We didn't really have social media, so no one really knew what each other were doing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's crazy how like any high school kid in the country can, open any social media outlet, form and find something that's probably going to help them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like all this stuff you post all the time, about like, hey, like this is a really good thing to eat before a run. It's like you didn't have that. Like you
Yeah,
didn't have
exactly. There's nothing.
like you didn't have Shalane Flanagan or like other girls that I mean you could maybe look up to them, but you had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
That's like, and that's honestly a huge thing. Like what even in college for us, even as late as like, like in 20, 15 and 14 for us, like in college is when like the only really thing we had was like some flow track videos like once in a
No,
blue moon.
literally, flow track workout
Yeah.
Wednesdays.
Yeah, it was our lifeblood to be
Yeah,
like, oh, oh,
literally.
oh, what are they doing? Like this
Literally,
is
workout
cool.
Wednesdays were huge. And then now look at like running
Yeah.
YouTube. It's actually crazy how much has changed.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think it's good that like high schoolers are like they're all really good these days, or do you think it's
I mean,
scary?
I would be so hypocritical to like sit here and say no, like or
Yeah.
say like yes, it is bad, because like I felt like, like we were part of that huge wave all of a sudden where all these people started really, showcasing what they're doing and showcasing the bad days and the good stuff and everything.
Yeah.
Um, so like I always like one of the formative things when like Reed, Drew, and I were sitting down and like starting to, like build the pillars that we wanted to like hold up Tinman Elite, and like what those values would be and whatnot. Like one of the things I remember so clearly talking about was like, man, like I wish we had someone like, yeah, I looked up to like Evan Yeager and Dathan Ritzenheim because they were like badass runners and like the way they race and stuff. But like,
Yeah.
I never looked up to anyone past just because I thought they like were wearing a cool race uniform or something,
Well, yeah, because all you saw was stats. You don't know anyone's personality at all. You don't know
Yeah.
what they're like. You don't know what their training's like. So it's
Yeah,
hard to
and that
even
and that right there is
pinpoint
a
a favorite
modern day
runner.
celebrity. The
Yeah.
modern day celebrity is not the Johnny Depp that shows up to the red carpet and wears like some Prada and you're like, ooh, it's like,
Yeah.
it's the Emma Chamberlain and Emma Abrahamson that are, showcasing like who they actually are and like the all the quirks, like the more quirks that you're like able and willing to showcase, like no matter what people might be saying, like that's like the more like people are going to be able to like connect with you and relate to you, so that's like kind of that same wave we wanted to do where it's like, man, like how cool would it be if there could be, high school, or an everyday runner, like no matter the age that can like look to us and be like, oh, like those guys are like me, or, or can be relatable, because at the end of the day, like, what are Pavlov's hierarchy of needs that we all learned in AP Psych? It's like,
Yeah, geez, I'm going back to psych class.
it's like food, shelter, and the third one, community,
Mhm.
and like community is, so important. And we thought that if we could build a community, like you have, through these outlets that make people feel like they're welcomed and make people feel like they're a part of it, there's something really special in that. So that's kind of been at the heart of, like, I think all of that. And I think a lot of people in this sport have communities to feel like they're a part of, and it's going to allow them to continue to push themselves within the sport that a lot of runners in our generation might not have had.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a hard sport. I feel like you need like-minded people around you, or you just have like that online community showcasing the struggles, like the highs and the lows. And I mean,
Mhm.
Tinman Elite has done a phenomenal job of all of that. But I want to get into that later. I have so many questions. We talk a lot about entrepreneurship and brand creation in this episode. And let me tell you right now, today's episode is brought to you by my brand, Crazed Foods. A new product is here. As you know, I am a coffee lover. What a surprise. With a special place for cold brew coffee, hence the name of this podcast, Convos Over Cold Brew. The tricky part is that cold brew coffee is quite a bit of work, and basically it requires an entire night of planning, and that's a lot to ask, especially when you're like me and you are not feeling it and you don't plan in advance for your coffee consumption. So instead of reaching for a quick option like a K-cup or something, I now have an alternative that doesn't taste like all the other gross instant coffees out there. And this means I also don't have to go walk anywhere to go get my coffee. It's already in the fridge, ready to go, because Crazed Foods Coffee Concentrate is a quick cold brew solution that I am really digging right now, and I'm not biased, I promise. It is so delicious and it's so convenient. Not to mention it has nearly double the servings of most of the competitors of coffee concentrate on the market. It has 96 servings in one bottle. All you have to do is use like a teaspoon, and I put it into almond milk. It tastes so good. You use it like you would any other coffee. You can add milk, sugar, ice, whatever you feel like, and then you have coffee level creations at the palm of your hand. So that's good for me because I always like to have cold brew on hand. Right now, Crazed Foods liquid coffee concentrate, you can use it hot or cold. It's available on Amazon.com. Just search Crazed Foods and you'll find it. It's also linked in the show notes. Highly recommend you go check it out. It's our newest product. I'm so excited about it. Thought it would fit in well with this podcast too, since we're talking about entrepreneurship in the running world. So I hope you guys go try out Crazed Foods liquid coffee concentrate on Amazon.com. Now let's get back into today's episode. I kind of want to talk about like college for you, because you had a really good college career too at NC State. Why did you decide to go to NC State?
I just, to answer it quickly, it was more just like, I just connected with the team the most, and that's what I prioritized the most. I remember I got some advice from a mentor, and this is the advice I give to literally any high school kid that's ever reached out to me and asked me about like colleges and college decisions and stuff, is like, hey, look, at the end of the day, the campus doesn't really matter, no matter how shitty or beautiful it is. Like, your teachers are going to be what they are, like, of course you want to go to like a good school, for your resume down the road and whatnot, but like the one thing that matters the most is who are your teammates on that team. Like, who are the people that are in your class with you? Who are the people you are going to recruit after you? And who are the upperclassmen when you come in? Because those are truly the people that are going to make your experience what it is. And that is something that I just so took to heart. And when I was deciding between basically Syracuse and NC State, and funny enough, I like committed to Syracuse like on my visit to Coach Fox, and
Really?
I would have been national champs with Justin and all that. I mean, who knows? I might have fucked it up if I went there and started the party culture or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's like one of those things that when I went to NC State, I was like, these are the guys I want to like kick it with for the next like 3 or 4 years. And
So then you had to decommit from Syracuse?
I had to call Coach Fox and basically be like, hey, like, I'm really sorry, but I really think my heart is here, And I saw a tweet recently from like a college coach saying, like, I really appreciate when kids call me and say no. And I'm like, what? Like, is that not a thing anymore where high school kids just don't tell coaches they're not coming to their school if they like went on a visit there? Like, I
Yeah,
thought
that's
that
weird. I
was
feel
like
like you have to say no to
practice.
Yeah, you would have to say no to all of them, or what? You're just
Yeah.
gonna leave them hanging?
Oh, I was terrified of that phone call.
Oh, they were horrible.
Oh my gosh. But that's one of those things. It was such a formative thing for me to like put on my big boy pants and freaking pick up the phone and like be like, hey, I'm talking to an adult. to another adult, you know, being
It's
like,
like
this
the
is
first taste of
a big
business
decision.
conversations.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big decision. And Coach Fox is a man. He was like, Sam, happens all the time, man. I totally understand, you know. And still to this day, whenever I see Fox, great conversation, love seeing him. Still one day would love to be coached by him. Like, I don't know if it's ever in the cards, you know, but like he would joke basically throughout my whole time at NC State, like, hey, like, how about that 5th year, you know,
Oh
or something
yeah.
like that, you know. But yeah, but I loved my time at NC State. I definitely didn't prioritize running as much as I probably should have. You know, I definitely was I went out every weekend, you know, like, or any weekend that I could. You know, I had way too many friends that were in fraternities and sororities at other schools, and that I could go visit and go to their formals and stuff. So like I definitely was a more unconventional NCAA D1 runner that
Yeah.
um and there's definitely those years. And I remember there was this one pivotal moment. I love telling this story to kids who also so desperately want to party and have that same experience as me, is that I went to this formal once at Myrtle Beach. It was just this shitty thing, but for some reason, I thought it was like the holy grail of fun, you know, that I was looking for at the time. And I was at like, it was just kind of this. The next morning, we were getting brunch and we were all hungover. And I like look over at one of my best friends and I'm like, man, you guys lived a life, you know, get to do this like once a month, you know, and like, and I have to just like train and wake up every morning and train and stuff. And my friend literally grabbed my shoulder and like pulled me away from everyone at brunch and like walked me outside. And he was like, Sam, like, don't you ever say that to me again. Like everything here that you're experiencing is hollow. Like the friendships here, like everything is hollow, you know, like these memories. I'm not gonna be able to tell my kids anything about anything I do here. It's just to fill, you know, this like void. And it was like super deep and
Oh,
emotional,
that's
you know, for him to say all this stuff. And he's like,
yeah.
Sam, like what you're doing in running and what you're going to continue doing running is going to be something you're going to be able to tell your kids about. You know, you're going to be able to tell your kids that you gave everything in college and you were an All-American and you did all this and that. And this is when I wasn't an All-American at the time or anything. And like, I'm literally getting goosebumps, like thinking about
Yeah.
this again, because it was such an impactful thing for me. And after that weekend, I stopped. It was like my junior year and I stopped drinking. I stopped partying. I still had fun when I could, just like any NCAA program, you know, like after the season and whatnot, like Christmas parties and all that.
Yeah.
But it totally changed my outlook and being like, man, I have 2 more years left at this. Like I need to go all in, or I'm always going to look back and be like, wow, was that one night where I just decided to drink 7 beers and go out to the bar is really worth it, you know?
Yeah.
Or was going to bed doing the long run and then getting a PR that, you know, might have been my last PR. You never know, you know,
Yeah.
like been more worth it. And yeah,
Yeah.
but
That's a great
I
story.
loved, I loved my time in NC State. Like I cherish it for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like, it's so easy from a student athlete perspective. Like me, I mean, going to Oregon, I was not going out. That was not really allowed on the team.
Yeah.
So I would go, I mean, it was the same. It was like you would have your little parties every year, but it's so easy from a perspective like that to be like, oh my gosh, everyone else is having so much fun. And I'm having this really
Right.
intense business like college career or whatever. But at the end of the day, like drinking a ton, it's fun in the moment, but it really is not fulfilling. What does that fulfill really in a lot of people's lives? So like your friend said, I mean, it is, I don't know, you can't speak for everyone, but a lot of the time it is
Sure.
hollow, you know. It's so much more fulfilling to push yourself to the limit and like give it all you got and, you know, show your potential over those 4 years. But I mean, have your fun too again. But I don't know, I like
Yeah,
to go out in
you always just got to find your
celebration.
balance, you know. It's just all the
Yeah.
balance you need to find is like, hey, look, if you need to go out there and like fill that void and get to like experience those parties, like go do it, you know. But like it's, you know, it's never something you want to make become, you know, who you are, because I'm sure that's not the best version of yourself at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I always felt good, like being able to go to a party or something in college after like the season was over, or after you did something really great, like
Right.
NCAA's or something. It always like it was fun celebrating. So
Yeah.
I love that story though. That's really cool. So congratulations on your success in college after that. So obviously it paid off.
Yeah.
Did you know you wanted to go pro like pretty soon, I guess,
No,
after that, or
no,
what was
not
the
at all.
vibe?
No, not at all. Like I totally thought like college done, like hard stop. Um, that was just always my mindset. And after I graduated college, I, you know, went to spend time with family in Germany that I hadn't spent anywhere nearly enough time with. You know, because of just being in the American school system, you know, from high school to college. And I like got to go back and I spent time, with all my uncles and cousins and grandparents and everyone, and ended up like traveling to like 18 countries that summer, like 4 months, and I didn't run at all during that time. Um, and there's a lot of like really small stories I could tell and big ones that were very formative in that time where all of a sudden I was like, holy crap, I need to go do this. It's gonna sound very like bad now, like retelling this story because I just said I like quit doing all the stupid party stuff after that. But like it definitely I had some like really dark moments like traveling because I was traveling by myself and I was basically just staying in hostels and like in my tent most of the time. And I would just basically retreat back to like my family in Germany when I would get like too tired or just be like wiped out, after like 2 or 3 weeks. Um, there was one time where I was in Barcelona and I just like was abusing my body in all sorts of ways, like with substance abuse. And I thought I was out with a bunch of friends that were like looking like gonna have my back, like when I was in this intoxicated state. Um, and they basically just left me on the streets
Oh,
like one night where like and I got left in like Las Ramblas, which are like the basically where like people get like mugged and like yeah, just really bad things happen, um and I remember like waking up the next morning for that, like literally on the street and being like, what the fuck am I doing with myself?
yeah.
Like, am I actually having fun or is this just the script that I'm just putting on myself to feel fulfilled,
Hmm.
And I got a train back home to Germany and I like literally just like stayed in my bed for like days and didn't leave until like I literally got up and I like decided to like go for a run. And I went for a run and I remember finishing that run. It was in like the middle of the night for whatever reason. Just because I'd been on in bed for days. I didn't like have any sense of like night or daytime, not to
Yeah.
sound overly dramatic, but that's what it was like at the time. And I went out in the middle of the night for this run and I remember just starting to like run faster and faster and faster. And all of a sudden, I was just smiling ear to ear. Like I was like elated, happy. And I remember just being like, wow, there's like something here, that's like more happiness that I felt like that any night or, like drug could have ever given me.
Hmm.
And that was really special. And I still think about that. And I bumped into Drew in Belgium and he told me he was moving out to Boulder. And I was like, that sounds sick. You think I could come do that with you after like not running for 3 months? Like almost like jokingly saying that, to be honest. And he was like, yeah, dude. And I'm pretty sure he was joking too. But then when I did end up getting back to the US for a friend's wedding, I like text him again. He's like, yeah, dude, like, sure. Like, come out to Boulder. Like, we'll catch some runs, and that was the extent of it.
How did you meet Drew? Did you just know him through the running world?
Yeah, it's a whole nother story. But basically, all these stories are just making me sound really bad. Uh, but I guess I'm doing it to myself. But I was interning at Adidas in Portland one summer, and I convinced my bosses in the tennis department who I was working for at the time that I needed to go to the Olympic trials and I was going to like test this is so confusing. My basically I was going to I convinced my boss to let me go to the Olympic trials for a very stupid reason that I was going to do like wear testing for slides. Like
We're
Adidas
testing for slides.
and I was going to get like the Adidas athletes to wear them. I didn't get a single one. I came back totally empty-handed and ended up just going to Taylor's every night with Moran. But uh, this one day, I was very hungover on the couch, and all of a sudden, this kid comes walking in, and I'm like, "Yo, like I know, like I had raised Drew. Drew had beaten me as a senior in college a few times that year, and I was like, "Yo, is that Drew Hunter? Like, what is Drew Hunter doing at Athlete Hospitality? And they're like, yo, he's about to like sign with Adidas. I'm like, what? He's in high school, He's like, yeah, like they're signing him and they're signing Noah Lyles and Josephus Lyles, and it's this whole big thing. And basically the story I like to tell, which didn't quite go this way exactly, but I like to tell that he was overwhelmed by all the Adidas people trying to get him to sign. He had already signed at this point, but this is a story I like to tell. He was overwhelmed with the decision and he needed to go for a run. And I was like, oh, I still need to run today too. and we went on a run together. And I basically convinced him that Adidas was the home for
Wow.
him during this run. No, but we basically just ran on pre-trail together, and we just became instant, friends, and had a connection, and we're, Snapchat buddies for the next year, and he
Yeah.
lived vicariously through my Snapchat stories and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like getting his college experience through me, which we joke about. But yeah, we were just friends. And then when he was in Belgium that summer racing, that was kind of like a few hours away from my uncle's house in Germany, where I was staying at the time, like helping him like paint houses and stuff in this little German neighborhood. And I was like, yo, like there's races this weekend, and where was it? Whatever, outside of Leuven. Houston is where it was. And I just went to go see him, and that's when he started talking about how he's going to move to Boulder and stuff. And that's how it kind of all came about.
Yeah. So then you moved to Boulder. You didn't have a contract at the time. You just were like, all right,
No, certainly not.
Yeah, I guess that after your hiatus, you're not gonna be
No, yeah,
signing contracts.
No, I actually remember I like sent this I should go back and like post this, because it'd be pretty funny to like look back at now. But I sent this email because I had intern at Adidas, and like I'm very good at networking. And that was one thing that I did all summer, was like I networked my ass off. Like I met as many people as I could, and got coffee with them, and ran with them, and hung out and got drinks after work with them, like any way I could, to build relationships with these people that make Adidas shoes. They're designers, they're sports marketing people, they're just all right there, and I met dozens of people that are still great friends and contacts and everything to this day. But I basically sent them this long email basically saying like, hey, like I'm moving to Boulder, I'm going to train with Drew Hunter, I promise I'm going to go all in, I'm going to put all that debauchery lifestyle behind me, and I'm going to go all in, and I promise I'm going to make it. I'm just, give me a chance, I would love to run in your shoes. Obviously, like with my NC State being an Adidas school and my familiarity with that and my connections there. And I thought I would just run for like maybe a year all in, and then I would just go and work at Adidas right after. So that's basically was my pitch to them. And like everyone was like, go Sam, you got it,
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, hey, we got you, here's 50K, you got it, you know what I mean? Like it was like you got this, bro. And Alex Lohr, who used to be one of the big faces of Flow Track when it was at its best, who then left Flow Track for Adidas, was like sent me like a big box, like sent me like a box of like stuff, to like run in. So I had like at least the gear, so at least I looked the part. And yeah, it wasn't until I think like 2 years later, like 2019, I like signed a contract, and that contract is up this year. So we'll see.
For renewal, like can you be renewed?
I'm on my
on the extended year or whatever it is.
Yeah. I didn't even realize, it was crazy. Like when I got the extended year, I was like, oh, like I thought that was like my option, and it was their option. Like I was so stupid signing. I mean, not that I'm upset about it, like it's great that I'm still supported for at least one more year. But I mean, I certainly will see what happens, like I hope they see enough value in me to continue, but
Yeah.
Got to run fast too, it's not just about how many shoes I can sell. But
yeah. So then you and Drew and Reed were just decided to, I guess, start the Tinman group then?
Well, it basically was like Reed was also kind of friends with Drew through the same kind of thing as me. Like, want to move to Boulder and run? It sounds sick, like Reed and I were both like second tier NCAA runners, like nowhere near good enough to run professionally, but good enough to want to keep running, even if we didn't have any support. And that was the reality. It was, we basically just were all out in Boulder, and we all had just an instant connection and love for one another. And we spent all these nights together where I was sleeping on Drew's floor of his apartment and being like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like we constantly would ask ourselves like these questions, like, why are we doing this? Like, what do we want to do during our time here? And I think that's kind of what was so special about what we had was like we were asking tough questions, like we weren't just being like, let's make the Olympic trials, you know what I mean? Or like just these very like tangible things that are just like laid out for you. We were
Yeah.
like, well, what's like our purpose here? Where do we fit into this space? And like we knew we were never going to be the Bowerman Track Club. You know what I mean? We knew we weren't the guys like Drew, sure, but like especially Reed and I like are not the guys that are going to be like putting medals around our necks, you know what I mean? Or like chasing world records or anything, let alone running professionally. But we did feel like there was a space for us to make an impact in the sport. And that's like where we basically all realized we wanted to do more for the sport than just run fast. And we all kind of had that common goal and mission. And that's where Tinman Elite slowly started being built off of, was like, hey, let's like create this team based off of like 3 pillars that are going to hold us up. And that's performance, community, and media. And we felt like if we do those 3 things really, really good, we'll be able to make a difference in our time in this sport. And yeah, and then we just started pouring our hearts out and it was kind of this perfect storm where I had this huge marketing background with my time working at Adidas. Reed was an English and PR major who had a background in like web design, and Drew having kind of the stardom that he had at the time, like to build it all together. It
Yeah.
was almost like this thing where it was like, oh, we have to do this, and I just started working on a logo once we figured out our mission to push the sport of running forward. Once we basically figured out all those key values and everything. And I think that's the thing is I constantly tell people that reach out to me to ask for like help to how to like build something. It's like you got to go through the boring stuff. You got to ask yourself like who, what, why, where, when. Like you got to do those marketing stuff that like people don't want to do. It's like
Yeah, the stuff that you
very
learn in
easy.
college from the textbook.
Yeah, it's like yeah, for sure. It's like you got to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Like 1,000 different ways in order to really build it out from there. And we sat down and we built it out from there. And that's still the ground that we, stand and pride ourselves on, is that like, those are the things we're always going to prioritize.
Yeah. I mean, it's been really cool to see you guys have really done something that no one else has really been able to do. I mean, I just really admire it because I feel like the running world is so stuck in their ways. And especially if you're trying to run professionally, like that takes so much of a toll on your body every day. So to try to kind of blow past what everyone else is doing in the running world and try to do your own thing and like build a brand from the ground up is so difficult in this like little running world. So to see all the success that you've had from it has been so cool to watch. Quick little intermission here to talk about one of my favorite long-term podcast sponsors because I love them so much, Goodr. Goodr makes $25 active sunglasses for anyone. They are lightweight, comfortable, and they don't move when you run, and they're all for only $25. They're no slip, no bounce, all polarized, and all fun. Some may say that they're the best sunglasses ever invented, and I would definitely agree with that because I wear them every single time I go outside for a workout. And they have the best names of the sunglasses. Something like The Future is Void and Influencers Pay Double. There's definitely a pair that speaks to you. I'm headed to Austin, Texas this week, and I'm gonna have multiple pairs of Goodr sunglasses coming with me because Austin, it's literally gonna be 90 degrees and sunny the entire time, and I know I'm gonna need a good pair of polarized sunglasses. And what else could I bring that would be better than a $25 pair of polarized Goodr active sunglasses? You guys should totally try them out and treat yourself to a pair or two because you definitely deserve it. And it's basically summertime. I mean, it's spring, but it's almost summer. So this is the perfect time to go try them out. And right now you can go to goodr.com. That's GOODR.com. and get 15% off your entire order when you use code COLDBREW at checkout. All orders over $50 get free shipping in the US. That's 15% off with code COLDBREW at www.goodr.com. Look good, run gooder. Now let's get back into today's episode with Sam. How have you dealt with like criticism that you receive?
Yeah, I mean, like basically everyone like either left us out for dead or like decided to like throw mud in our face when we were like at our worst, like going through like the whole controversy like with our coach last year. And it was definitely like a bubble bursting moment. Like I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat it anymore, you know? Like it's the type of thing where it's like it really fucking hurt, you know? Like it really brought us down to our knees at times, you know? Like I'm not saying, you know, one individual person did that, but it was just like the collective of it all, where it was like, oh, like we're failing, you know? And it wasn't even that, like it all bubbled down to like how we were running, you know? When your cortisol levels and your stress and your anxiety going into a race is already so high, you know, and being like, I need to get this done today. And you only have this little bit in your tank, your energy to give that day, you're gonna run like shit, you
Yeah.
know? And like it didn't matter how hard we worked, didn't matter how many tempo runs or like, you know, every race we were gonna run bad, you know, and that was like the reality of where we were in. And I think a lot of people in this running world, especially, I'd say, and I guess you could probably say it within any place, like people live in their bubbles. You know what I mean? They live in their bubbles where it's like you only talk to your friends, you know, you only communicate with people on social media that praise you, and that bubble gets really big. And I'm sure you've learned it too. Like the bigger your following gets, like the bigger that bubble gets. And the bigger that bubble gets, the analogy goes like it's probably going to pop at some point, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like you're probably going to have to look outside that bubble when that bubble pops. And that's what it did for us. And like honestly, like it's pretty freaking good now, because like I sure grew up a lot from it, and I know all the guys did too. Like learn how to deal with criticism. Like that comes with the territory of being a professional athlete, like period.
Yeah.
um like not everyone is going to love you no matter who you are or what you try to do or what messages you try to out. Like I could spend the rest of my life going out and spreading love and positivity within this sport, which I plan to do always, and never belittle or bring someone down for a reason that would be irrational, or even if I do believe it, I would never do it publicly, you know?
Yeah.
um like I will always lead with love, because I never want to be remembered in this sport for being someone that did anything but that, you know. But I could preach this all day long, but if someone comes to my profile and like, wow, Sam Parsons is a D-bag, you know, it's like, and never talks to me or anything, it's like there's nothing I can do about that, you know,
Yeah.
unless they really approach me head on and ask for a conversation or something, then I decide to give them the time of day, like then sure, you know. But I guess comes with the territory is like kind of the phrase I'm going to just use with this. It's like you can't expect to have the immediate success and, you know, everything that we were able to accomplish in that short time we did, like without getting punched in the face, you know, like down the road, you know. And
Yeah.
like that's what happened, and we're better for it now. And it's something where like Tinman Elite could have easily been something that just would have like came and went, you know. And I get, you know, tagged in a new track clubs, you know, thing pop up every week, you know, and like they come and they go, unfortunately, you know. A lot of times because I don't think they took the time to really think about why are they doing this and what are the things that we're always going to be able to come back to when it's going bad, you know. And like that's what we were able to do, is like just go back to those three things, you know, and be like, hey, look, like if we focus on our community that are still riding with us, and we continue to put out content that is like true to us, whether people outside of us think it's inauthentic or not, it is authentic to us, and that's what matters. And yeah, and performance then, like having, you know, Coach Hunter come on and give a shit about us as people, made all the difference in the world. And that's what we're seeing now. So yeah, you gotta get put down to your knees to be able to stand back up sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah. How do you balance it all as like I mean, all of you are professional athletes, like running at the professional level. How do you balance that and trying to like run an entire business?
We work really hard. Like
Yeah.
that's another thing that I think that like people don't really see on outside. And like it's something that I think Max has talked about all the time, like trying to showcase it, but he never knows how to on YouTube. But like I have meetings every single week going over media rollouts, media strategy, going over, hey, what are other people doing good? You know, what are we doing really bad? You know, we're constantly reflecting, you know, like, I mean, I can bring you around this room right now and we have whiteboards filled with my
Yeah.
random, you know, stuff, like being like, oh, we need to do this or we need to do that, you know? So yeah, we built out a whole team of people that like, that want to do this stuff. Like we have never asked anyone on the team to like do anything they don't want to do. So it's a lot of work, you know, and it's this type of thing where it's like the minute it stops becoming fulfilling or the minute people don't want it anymore, I'll stop so quickly, or I feel
Yeah.
like what I'm doing is no longer worthwhile for running or for myself or whatever, like then I'll be able to walk away with a smile on my face regardless. But it's a lot of work, we really think about this stuff, we really think about how we can make the biggest impact in the time we have here. And yeah, every Monday, probably for 3 hours, we just sit down here and talk about everything that we need to get done for the week.
Yeah.
And then we all go out and do it.
Yeah, that truly is. It's a business. It's
Yeah.
wild just to see like how much you guys are doing behind the scenes that, like you said, probably can't even be showcased by a vlog or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the best part of like your career, would you say?
Oh, geez. Definitely. I mean, I'll always just go back to like those little messages you get, once every blue moon, of like someone being like, hey man, like I put on the shoes you designed and I felt like I was flying today. You know what I mean? Like, there's a ton of little ones that I always can go back to and I hold close to my heart. And it's like those little things will always mean the most to me, and I'm sure you're the same way. Like whenever you get a message from someone saying like, hey, like I accept myself bet more, and
Yeah.
I'm going to confront like my struggles, like head on now, or I'm going to like accept that I do have a problem, like head on. Like that's the stuff that's the most fulfilling. And I do always go back to say like, man, like I really hope when I retire, like nobody says like, oh, Sam Parsons, he ran 13:10 and sub 4 minute mile. Like I really hope they say like Sam Parsons, like he made a difference in his time and he, was a great ambassador for the sport and, like he made a difference, for us, or whatever, like I really hope it's intangible stuff that people, remember me. And the stuff that I'll always be most proud of is those little intangible things, because I certainly wish I had pro runners that I could look up to and like watch their YouTube channels like kids can do today and be like, okay, if I act like this and do that, you know what I mean? Like I can, get further than maybe I ever thought I could. So
Yeah.
it's always a little stuff,
Yeah.
What about
And
you?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's definitely the same thing, like being able to meet people in person that, have followed my stuff for a while, or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
getting those DMs, like people just saying how much I've helped them in different ways. It's just crazy because I mean, I'm self-employed. I don't really see people on a day-to-day basis that
Yeah.
often. So it's kind of hard to put it together, but especially when I meet someone in person and they tell me that,
Yeah.
it like means the world because I'm like, people actually watch my stuff. It's kind of crazy, but
Yeah.
it's so different than like my day-to-day life. So I'm kind of the
Yeah.
same way.
I think it's definitely starting to happen more because of these like really tragic deaths that happen,
Mhm.
like people like Mac Miller, you know what I mean? Like, man, like there's thousands of people that wish they would have tweeted out like, yo, this album's amazing, like this got me through this, or whatever, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like that's the type of stuff where it's like people are realizing like, man, like you got to, like give people their flowers when they still can, smell them. And that's something that I think like people more and more, especially in like Gen Z, I think like Gen Z gets a lot of like crap, um, because they can be ruthless by nature, but at the same time, like I do think they're some of the most like aware individuals like of themselves and of others, like because they are, consuming a ton of, stuff that we didn't have.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there is a lot of,
There's
reflection that they are
connection.
going through. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
on a different level because it's like social media. You see, especially with TikTok, I feel like too, and YouTube, you just
Hmm.
see more people's lives. It's not like Johnny Depp or whatever on the
Yeah.
on the stage. It's a lot more connection with an individual because you can actually see the struggles that everyone's going through and like the ups and the downs. So shout out Gen Z.
Yeah.
Underdog Fantasy is the fastest growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, what's on your personal goal list, I guess, with the Tinman brand and running and life for you?
Oh man. It's so crazy if you would have asked me this question like 2 years ago versus like now, like,
Yeah.
oh man, this is tough. I guess I always had this like mindset, and this is like super ambitious, of being like Tin Man and the Hammer and Axe are going to be like what Jordan brand is for Nike. Like, you don't put on a basketball shoe unless it has Air Jordan on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I just always had this image of like, I'm going to build Tin Man to be like, you don't wear Adidas running unless you have a Hammer and Axe on it, or you have like, our Axe and banner on it.
Yeah.
I realize that's not a reality, in the nature of like our relationship with Adidas and like all of that. Like, look, like we have shoes coming out and that's happening. So I could say like that dream is fulfilled. I could say that. But at the same time, like, I do think like the future of Tinman Elite and my goals within that definitely lie within, like, it's just like, can it last, decades after I'm long gone. Like, can there be a new creative director that has the same fire and passion as I have to make sure that there is consistent content and that there's consistent product for people to, wear with pride and be empowered by, like, can that live on? And our team contract with Adidas is up in 2024. And it is the type of thing where it's like, we could run lights out, we could do all those things, and like, who knows if Adidas still doesn't, like, have enough, financial support, at the time, or they're, if they think they need to move in a different direction, that could be a reality too. But like, I want to do, so my immediate goal right now is to continue to build out the Tinman Elite umbrella. And like, I want to hire like a full-time community manager, like, so badly. And like, we just need the funding to support them properly. And like, I'm working very hard to get new sponsors and investors in order to like be able to have like a job description put out to be like, hey, like, in Boulder, Colorado, I want someone that is going to run weekly runs, like, do what the new gen guys are doing so well right now. It's like, we don't go to a race unless we can, run with the community when we're there, and it's so hard for us to do that because we don't have anyone that is focusing on that. Because when I go to races, I need to race.
Yeah.
When Max comes to races, he needs to focus on videography, and capturing that. And coaches need to focus on coaching. So we need to hire someone on the outside to do that. Summer camps, community runs. Like, I want someone that is just fired up to do all of that. And I think if we can do all of that, in turn, that will also, help our potential in order to secure sponsorships, for decades that see the value that we're bringing to the running community as a whole. And that's a worthwhile endeavor to invest in it. So I definitely would say the short and long-term goals are like securing funding in order to make sure that this is something that continue to make an impact in the sport far past me.
Yeah. You literally just answered my next question. I was like, if you could have more support for the team, where would you need it the most? But that you literally just answered that.
Yeah.
So like, where does the big funding come in? Do these companies just give you like huge sums of money, or like through a certain amount of years?
Yeah. So basically, it comes through 3 different channels for us right now. It comes through product sales that we basically get, product directly through Adidas factories, and Adidas supports us through that and like allows us to have like really great margins in order to like make capital. And that goes, directly back to guys travel, physio, like, signing, more women onto our team. It's like, it goes to all that stuff. And then it also goes to, and then the big sponsorship stuff is like Adidas and Whoop, like the big 6-figure things that like really move the needle for us, in order to, pay our coaches and, like, make sure our athletes are taken care of with that sort of stuff. And like, course we like need and want more, but everyone is devalued for what their true value is. I truly believe,
Yeah.
everyone is underpaid, and like the faster people come to grips with that, like the better their lifestyle will be. Like there is no one, like there's so little people out there that are actually getting paid what they like truly deserve. But I'm getting off topic. Yeah, like and then there can be donor support too, which like we don't really have any of the donor support. At one, like when we were first starting out, like before Adidas came on, like we did have a few donors that were like just basically just paying our rent, you know what I mean, and just helping us like just with basic living costs,
Yeah.
that were like just guys that just came out of nowhere. Like one of the guys, I'm gonna remain anonymous, but literally just reached out to me and was like, hey, like you talked to my grandson after a race and it meant the world to him. Like if they're like, I like do this for these college programs. And if I can support you in any way, like I would love to set something up. And I just basically said, I'm like, well, I basically have one more year left in this sport that I can afford to continue running. And these are my expenses. And he helped,
Yeah.
so there's those type of situations also, but it really is the type of thing where it's like, and I have thought about going down the route of like selling like shares of Tinman Elite, like basically like all the founders have like a breakdown of shares within the company. And that's the type of thing where it's like, yeah, should I like give up 10% of Tinman Elite in order to have funding, so we can hire that community manager and do that stuff, like if there were investors out there like that I were readily available and I thought their intentions and heart was in the right place, like I would definitely like hear those things also. So I guess those are the channels, but
Yeah.
definitely the big ones, of course, where it's like consistent revenue comes from, the watch sponsors, like the shoe sponsors, the nutrition sponsors, kind of those like core things. But I really am working to like branch outside of like the realm of that, which is very hard to do to break into a new industry. But like getting, a beer sponsor like Molly Seidel, like getting tech sponsors that, like Ineos, like those type of things that really make huge differences for teams. So
Yeah. And stuff that's outside the running world.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just so cool to see that you guys like started this and you can fund basically people's dream of becoming a professional runner, like by yourself and your own brand. Like that is so awesome. I feel like people just don't really know how much effort has gone into it. I mean, a lot of people probably do, but just know I watched and I am very impressed. So
Thank you, Gemma.
good job.
The stress, I'll tell you, like in 2019 when we were like negotiating our team deal that we still are on today. And I remember like being in meetings with Connor, who, runs most of the business with me. He's like our CEO, COO. And just being like, Connor, like if we don't sign this team deal, like we cannot support Joey, we cannot support, and like Brian, like we cannot support these people, and like we need to do this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even though maybe we thought we deserved more, you know what I mean, or whatever at the time, or we, wanted this or that, it was the type of thing where it's like we need to do this in order to give them a chance to like actually pursue this, so
Yeah.
that is stuff I'll like forever be, proud that like we were able to like do those things, because that was certainly like goal number one when we first started, was like how can we support like people that like deserve a chance in this sport that probably aren't going to get it anywhere else.
I guess, okay, this is my last question around this because I don't want to take up too much of your time, but how do you, I guess, kind of work with the people that are part of Tinman? Because everyone, it's like business and friendship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like how does that work?
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. Like we talk about it all the time, because like usually people say all the time, like don't go into business with your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we're
It's
going
like
into
rule
business,
number one.
We're going into business with our friends and teammates. So it's not
friends,
like
teammates, and like it's your lifestyle, like it's your life's dream. Everyone's life's dream.
It's not even just like friends where it's like, oh, you just move out or like you stop getting beers with them or whatever. Like this is like, no, you still show up to practice. Like even if someone effed up the website and there's 50 shirts all of a sudden that are sitting here instead of sold because of their mistake, and you're like, dude, what the, you know what I mean? Like, you're like pissed off. It's like, you still have to go run with them that day.
Yeah.
So like, it's tough. It's really hard, like Max is one of my best friends, like probably will be standing next to me on my wedding day. And like, we have had belligerent yelling matches at one another before, where like later that day, like we are seeing each other in the kitchen because we live together,
Yeah.
It gets really tough. And it really is a type of thing where it's like Connor Winter really is just like such this like glue for all of us, where like anyone can go to Connor to like sound off, and like Connor will just fix it if it has to be fixed, or like talk to people and make everyone feel valued. Because at the end of the day, like that is the thing that derails, businesses, is when all of a sudden like people don't feel valued,
Yeah.
and like he is such an amazing person at doing that. So I would like constantly go back to Connor to being like, that's how we do manage it in reality. And at the same time, it is just like a mutual respect that it's like, look, we're not raking in tons of money here. You know what I mean? Like we're making money in order to continue to do it, like
Yeah.
that is our business structure, like there was at one point where we thought we were going to be, making hundreds of millions of dollars and with the trajectory and everything, but it's like, it's running, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
not
it's running,
basketball,
and then
you know what I mean?
yeah, and then it's like the more money that you make, the more you have to invest into your business too. So
Right.
it all just like, if you want to grow it, you have to put in the money. So the hundreds of millions of dollars being put back into the company, and
Right.
it's running. So who's making hundreds of millions of dollars? No one.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
okay, well, we have a couple of listener questions that we can get through quickly. You answered actually a decent amount of them already, but we got some fun ones here. Someone asked, who in Tin Man snores the loudest? This person has a feeling it's Joey.
Actually, not Joey. Max, when he drinks, if we're counting Max on Tin Man, is really bad. Jeff used to be really bad. Yeah.
There we go. Let's see. Tell us the story about how you got hurt on a broken window.
Oh my gosh.
You don't have to tell it if it's bad.
Oh, this is such a bad story.
Okay, you don't have to tell it if you don't want.
I'm gonna sugarcoat this as much as I possibly can. It was after NCAA's. I was very intoxicated, and there was someone that was in my bedroom with me, and someone else on my team at the time was very unhappy that we were in the bedroom together. And he decided to crawl around the roof of my house and break the window in order to disrupt, this meeting. And I jumped out of bed, stuck my shirtless body out this window and cut my arm. And as I was walking back to bed, it was basically like, Sam, oh my God, like, look at your arm. And like, I can show you this scar. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh my gosh. Ow.
Yeah, it just slit my arm open. And got rushed to the hospital and got a bunch of stitches.
Jeez, that story sounds extremely dramatic.
Yeah, it was quite the post-nationals party that year.
Yeah, it sounds about right. What is Rent is Due?
Rent is Due is from the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles in a preseason interview when they asked him about like how he's going to make it through the season, because he basically was like out to prove himself every single game, like because they basically, like, Eagles fans are relentless, and if you have one bad game, they're immediately looking for you to be replaced. And he basically just said, like, it's just rent is due every day mentality, where it's like every day you got to wake up and get it done, and pay your rent, or else you're going to get, booted. And I just heard that and I'm like, damn, that's the mentality I need to have, is like, if I'm not paying my rent every single day, like, I'm gone, I'm out of this sport. You know what I mean? Like, quite literally, if I don't pay my rent every single day and work my ass off, like, I'm not getting another contract, like, I will start making shoes at Adidas or wherever, and like help the sport in another way outside of Tin Man if I don't get the support. But it's just the cutthroat reality of it.
Yeah. What's your favorite piece of Tin Man merch you've ever created? Is it called merch? Is that what you would call it?
No, I hate calling it merch. Actually.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, I feel like you guys do not call it merch.
Product.
Tin Man
Maybe
product.
Product is even more pretentious. Maybe that's maybe I need my bubble burst on that one too. Maybe I should be calling it merch. I'm such a prick. Product. Uh, I'll say we did these like bleach dyed black hoodies, and it's like how I asked my girlfriend out at the time to like help me with them. And it was like a business meeting, but it was actually just a date. So because of the ties with that, probably that hoodie. Yeah.
Wow,
The
that's very
bleach
wholesome.
dyed Tinman Elite hoodies. Yeah. But I'm releasing this shoe like later this summer, and I think it's gonna like, I think it's so sick, and
You
I
think
can't
it's
wait.
gonna be your favorite? It's gonna replace your favorite
Everything,
piece.
everything. Oh yeah, this shoe is crazy. Like the materials and everything that we did, and just like how many rounds of sampling we did for it. It's just like crazy. I actually have a sample here that I'll show you after. But
Okay, it's exclusive, so not that anyone can even see it because this is audio only, but
Oh
still.
really? This video doesn't get posted, so no one's gonna
No,
see my scar that I actually have on my arm.
no, but it was wild. It was the craziest scar I've ever seen. Just letting
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
know.
yeah. No one knew it went right across my face. It's crazy.
Someone just asked, how much money do you make? You don't have to answer.
Not enough. Just like everyone in this sport.
Um,
That's one thing I promise. I'm gonna like say this publicly now, just because I saw people talking about it before. The minute I retire from the sport, like, is the minute I tell everyone how much I'm making, just to help someone else. Like I
yeah,
don't understand why retired runners can just put their ego aside and just tell people that you were making under 50K or that you were making 10K. Like just
yeah,
tell people. Like there's very few people out there that are actually like proud of their contracts, distance runners and sprinters alike. And I really wish retired people that are allowed to.
yeah. I was like, don't people sign NDAs for like years?
Yeah. Like even like, I'm pretty sure it's like a few years after my Adidas contract, I legally am not allowed to say anything either. I don't know I need to ask like my agent about all that stuff, but like luckily, like through Tinman Elite and like working very hard through that, and like with securing other sponsorships, like I've been able to like make enough money in order to like live the lifestyle that I want to live, and like that I don't have to live month by month,
Yeah,
like I once was. So
yeah. Well, it doesn't come easy. You work hard, so you deserve it. Do you have what is like your advice for entrepreneurs or creatives in the running world? I know you kind of
surround,
talked about the pillars and
surround,
everything, but
yeah,
like,
surround yourself with people that inspire you. Like that's like the best advice I feel like I've ever gotten. And it's like, surround yourself with photographers, videographers, like people that are just free thinkers, just like latch yourself onto mentors, like that's how you're going to move the needle the fastest. Is like, if you have someone that is able to hear your ideas totally without any judgment. Like, I have notes, like my notes folder on my phone is like if I ever get like in trouble with the law or something, like I'm going to jail for so long because you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's a maniac for all
yeah,
these like
it's literally insane.
incoherent like thoughts and like ideas that I just like write down when I'll literally wake up at night and be like, oh, like write that down, like crazy incoherent, ramblings. But surround yourself with people that like inspire you and are like gonna lift you up and like empower you, because that's like what Drew and Reed did. Like Reed and Drew were like the best version of like, okay, Sam, like that's really stupid, but we think this could be really cool, where it's like not just like breaking you down and being like laughing at you or making you feel judged by your ideas or things, like so like, yeah, surround yourself with people, like the right people, and like
Yeah,
you can go so far so quickly.
that's good advice. Do you have any advice to your younger self?
I would probably tell young Sam, I wish I wouldn't have like held stuff like to my like heart as long as I did with stuff, like just like the insecurities of being like the short kid in high school and stuff, and like being able to tell him like, hey, like be okay with who you are right now and know that like things are going to work out, like I wish I could definitely go to that kid and like not make him as insecure and as, like, yeah.
That's good advice. I think a lot of people can, take that to
Be
heart.
okay with the person you are right now. Like
Yeah.
that's what I would tell him. Like I would just tell him like, hey, like be okay with the person you are right now and like embrace that fully, because like this is a part of like your journey and like who you're gonna become later,
Yeah.
Like for sure.
Sweet. Well, that's all my questions. This was a good episode. I feel like it kind of went exactly where I thought it was going to go, but I was just curious to pick your brain as a fellow, I guess, entrepreneur in the running world. And yeah, like I said, your first Tinman guy to come on. And I was like, oh, this is good. Yeah, there you go. Well, what do you want to plug? Because you have probably a lot of things that you want to plug or that you could plug, but what is your priority? What do you want people to check out?
I want to plug, I had a really great talk with the guy who started Forest. It's this new like running brand, but it's not what you think it is. And he has a lot of Brendan, and he has a lot of cool stuff coming up. So check out Forest Running on Instagram. April 16th, we're dropping some sweet shoes that I'm super excited about, that I leaked today, that Adidas is going to be really mad at me about because I leaked it early, but so it goes sometimes. Yeah, just corporate stuff,
Yeah.
But yeah, and just I would just say, if you're ever looking at something on social media and it even remotely, like gets your head spinning in the wrong direction, just mute it. Like don't be afraid to just mute someone. Like I know unfollowing can be hard, but just mute them and like recognize that you're probably going to be better off, whether it's like, even if it's a close friend and you just need a break from like how happy they are if you're not, so I'll plug muting people when you need to on Instagram.
I honestly agree with that. I second that because I do that sometimes too. It's not, unfollowing is a little aggressive if it's like someone that you know personally, sure. But muting I'm a fan of. So
yeah, I mean, there's people I still want to like support, but it's just people that I recognize where I'm like, when I see their content right now, it's just kind of like puts me in a worse headspace than I was before I was looking at it. So
yeah, and it's honestly not anyone's fault. It's just like where you're internally where you're at. So
yeah, absolutely.
I get it. All right, Sam, well, thank you for joining us. To close out the episode, can we get a good old peace out, fellas?
Peace out, fellas.
Thank you all so much for listening to today's episode of Convos Over Cold Brew. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Sam. We talked about a lot of different things, and it's always really interesting to hear different entrepreneurs / creative people in the running world. Since the world is so small, I'm always so curious just to see how people start things and where they plan on going with their brands that they create and everything. So it was really fun talking to Sam. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate and review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. It helps me out so much, and it's a free way to support the podcast. Also, we have merch on the website. The link is in the show notes as per usual. Follow us on Instagram at Convos Over Cold Brew Pod if you want to be up to date and submit listener questions. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will catch you all next week. Peace out, fellas.